innovations that we have. But as for the change for COVID-19, our topic today revolves around how it created in the corporate world, how we need to face this change and what part of innovation plays, and how fresh management graduates have to be prepared for it. Joining us today for the next 1.5 hours will be the group CEO of Dialog, Mr. Supun Weerasinghe, who will be sharing some great insights and great innovation, great thoughts on how do we move forward with COVID-19 as well. Now, a couple of things for you about Mr. Weerasinghe is that he commenced his career in telecommunications at Dialog Axiata in 1999 and held multiple roles such as the head of strategy and CEO of mobile business before being appointed as the group CEO of Dialog in 2010. That's the Group Chief Operating Officer. And in 2013, he was seconded to Axiata Group Berhad in Malaysia as its Group Chief Strategy Officer. At Axiata, he also served as the head of Network Transformation Strategy Business Unit, under which he led the Group Technology, Carrier Collaboration, and Axiata Intelligence Unit. From January 2014 to October 2016, he functioned as the CEO and Managing Director of Robi Axiata Limited in Bangladesh, the second largest mobile network provider in Bangladesh, that is. He serves on the board of a subsidiary and associate companies of Dialog, as well as UNGC Network Sri Lanka, and he's a fellow member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accounts, holds a Bachelor's of Science in Accountancy and Financial Management from the University of Sri Jayewardenepura, and he also holds an MBA from the University of Western Sydney, Australia, and an alumnus of the Harvard Business School. Okay, joining us is the Group Chief Executive and member of the Board of Dialog Axiata from the 1st of January 2017 is Mr. Supun Weerasinghe. Mr. Weerasinghe, good morning. Congratulations on your appointment to the National Sports Committee. I think a lot of praises, a lot of support, because Dialog has been very instrumental in supporting all sports in the past. And with this initiative that has come through the Sports Minister, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar or the discussion. I think it's indeed a great pleasure to share some of our experiences. And again, Sharon is someone we very closely work with in our events and our engagements. So nice to see you, Sharon, once again. Yeah, sports was one of the things. Sports is very, very close to Dialog, and we have been supporting sports way back. I think even the Olympic contingent that won the first silver medal when Susantika took that medal, even that contingent was supported by Dialog way back in year 2000. So we have been very closely working with sports, helping, and we feel that this is a good opportunity to help bring in some policy structure, performance management discipline, so that we can compete with the rest of the world, and our athletes can really excel, because we have the talent. It's giving them the guidance and setting them on the right track, and then we have a lot of good infrastructure, but bringing everything together is what we want to achieve. Again, a set of like-minded individuals that really wants to help the country. So again, it's a great privilege to serve in that sports council. Look forward.
And thank you, Supun. And to all the viewers who have joined us on Zoom, you can send in your questions on the chat box and we can commence now. Supun, I know that we have been trying to change things, and I think your employees also would be coming back with a fresh start. But how do you see the return of this normal business operations? Do you think the firms would be able to get back to the usual systems, or is it a point where people will forget to wear the mask in the coming 2 weeks?
Yeah, so actually, for when we look at our organization, we really didn't have a stop, because we are an organization which runs 24/7. We cannot have any kind of outage in our business. Maybe you will tolerate 1 day of electricity outage, but you will never tolerate 1 day of connectivity loss for the country. So that's the challenge and the pressure that we have every day. So what we did was we moved into a work from home model. No sooner the lockdown was implemented. So the engineers who are used to otherwise monitoring the network from the network operations center then moved home. The customer service associates who used to take calls at the call center then started taking calls from home, as well as also using the outlets which were closed at that time. And all the other colleagues were ready to move in and then continue to support the operation. During, I think, the lockdown period, we launched more products than what we would launch in a one full year. That 2 months, we launched so many products because one of the first requests that I got was from UGC chairman, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, called me just as the country was going into lockdown, and he said, "Can you help us to give free data to our university students?" So then we agreed, and then we got in other operators. We got in TRC, so that it's not only a Dialog subscriber who has to get free access, but everyone can get access. And then with the Learn system, we managed to then gradually open up internet access. So that's one. Then SLIIT University again reached out to us. We facilitated ICTA. So there were a lot of work that was going background to make sure that we keep everyone connected and facilitate shaping traffic. Again, there were surges that we had to handle, keeping the network up and running, adding capacity on the go. So it wasn't really a stop for us. But what we then did was we also have seen that there's a significant productivity improvement when staff work from home. There's, or on the other, if I put it the other way, there is a fairly a certain loss of productivity on travel time, which can be avoided by working from home. But there is also a downside because you lose contact with your colleagues. There is so much you can do on a web Teams call or through online collaboration. So that engagement, that interaction is what today builds team working, the culture of the organization, and also a close relationship with the supervisor. So what we have done is moved into a semi work from home model. Initially, we said to go up to 30% and then go up to 50%. So we encourage employees to come to work at least 3 days of the week. Some of the colleagues have said that they don't have the right environment at home. Can they come all 5 days? All by means they can come all 5 days if they prefer to come to work and do the work, or if they want to stay, maybe take 1 week from home, again, that's fine. So we try to find a blend between working from home and working from office, because end of the day, what we are really focused on the results, not really where you are working from, and also making sure that you have that engagement with your supervisor and colleagues, because stuff like the organization culture, team working is really important when an organization goes through a crisis. For example, during the COVID crisis, because we have a strong culture, team working, we were able to manage and then go through that well, come out stronger because of that strong culture that we have. So we always want to build on that, and that's why we encourage staff to come to work. Some of the challenges that we have is when some of the colleagues are at work, some of the colleagues are at home, making sure that engagement at meetings, for example, is perfectly smooth and synchronized, because everyone joining online doesn't have that interaction compared to the ones who are at the meeting room. So we are adding in new technology, new devices, which focuses on the person who is speaking, so that everyone can see the person and then maintain that engagement and interaction, and also facilitating more active discussion. So that is one. We are also creating more pods, because when there are colleagues joining from home and others working from office, there's also so much of noise that gets created because everyone is doing calls from their desk. So we are adding more pods into our office environment, so that there are some silent areas. People can go into those areas and do the calls without disturbing the others, because over the last 3 years, we also went into a more open office. We took a digital office and created open environments. But when if you have to do a call while the others are working, then it creates disturbance and noise. So those are other stuff that we are doing. But we are again telling that we need to maintain that discipline and be responsible as employees for everyone else. Make sure that you disclose, you do a self declaration of if your health condition every day. You also sign in every day, even if you are signing from home. We can, through our HR app, you can sign in from home. We have integrated that with, say, Teams app. So in the morning when I get a pop-up from Teams saying that now you are ready to sign in, this is your schedule. All your colleagues, all your staff have logged in to work. So trying to bring in that engagement and integration between the common Microsoft platforms and HR. But there needs to be a lot of discipline as well.
Mr. Weerasinghe, now post-pandemic environment, we see a lot of students getting online, especially for this request. So there was a conventional change that took place, and I'm sure it was the similar when it came to business practices as well, because sometimes for us, it's like joy coming to office and meeting our colleagues, and then that's then, like you said, it's more active, you tend to work. But then when you're at home also, there is a positive and a negative, where you get more time to work because you're actively free, but it could be based on the environment. There is a thing now that people want to go back. Will this contemporary business continue, or they're kind of laid back in that they don't want to go into the computer-based automatic operation system or the business system, because we need to catch up a lot when it comes to things like working from home. That was like a completely new setup. People were not used to it at all. And while we were trying to adjust ourselves into that system, it's a question whether we want to go back to it again, or do we work in office? How do you see this?
No, I see that this is a great opportunity. I think once Winston Churchill said that you should never miss a crisis. So it's something that we always believe in, and we have to, as a team, we are doing that, and as a country, we have to do that so that we can progress faster. I think as a country, we have done tremendously well in managing the pandemic, but we have to make use of that to now, while the others are struggling to bring back their economies. We need to make sure that we don't let go of this opportunity and fast track our digitization, move into online, adapting all these tools and technologies, because it's far more efficient, far more productive. But if you try to push that back again, you will see that while the rest of the world has moved so much faster, we are lagging behind. So it's a great opportunity, and we are always encouraging that. We want to maintain about good 50 to 30 to 50% at minimum working from home any given time. We also have brought in, just to mention about the first part that you said, brought in set lunch breaks so that we don't have meetings going through the day. We also have brought in rules and not to have meetings after, say, 6 p.m. unless it's really, really critical. We also try and avoid weekends and private time, because again, the staff need that time to refresh. We also have now brought in the rule to, if you are speaking or if you are presenting, you need to switch on your camera to maintain that engagement. Because again, when you're switching off your camera, you lose engagement, and then that there is also personal development that happens through that, all those engagements. So we have brought in those subtle changes into our policy, but what we are seeing is that consumer is moving very fast to digital. Consumer is adopting digital really, really rapidly. So organizations need to make sure that we are up there. Otherwise, what is the downside? Our cost base will increase. Our cost to serve our customers is increasing. No longer you have digital. That means you have 5 people manual operations. One is, it's more costlier, it's less efficient. So you are not meeting the needs of, say, this generation, Gen Zs and millennials, who are a lot more savvy to digital. They don't want to talk to a call center agent. They want to get things done by themselves. So you are not ready for serving that segment, and also your cost of serving, because as an organization, you have to always look at what is the cost of production so that I can give my services at an affordable price to our consumer. Because if you don't improve your affordability, then you are not relevant to a customer. The reason why you are staying in business is because you are bringing relevance, you are adding value to the customer's life. And in order to bring relevance, you need to make sure that your product is relevant and you are offering it at a affordable price. And the price that you gave yesterday is not going to be good today. Always we have to challenge ourselves. How can we bring the cost of our production down? Cost of, in our case, it is cost of production of a GB of data, one GB or 1 MB of data. How can we bring down the cost of production? And this cannot be an incremental change. Unfortunately, this cost reduction cannot be incremental. It has to be quantum changes. So what we have been working over the last 3 years is to bring down the cost of production by 90%. Over a period of 3 to 5 years, and then minimum within 3 years to get to about 50% reduction. So to do that, you have to be more efficient and improve utilization, and also take away the manual ways of doing stuff and then move those to digital. So that is why you have to do it. Otherwise, you will not be relevant to the customer, more from a service experience as well as affordability.
Interesting. And what's interesting is this incremental change and quantum changes that's taken place. Now, our graduates who are watching us right now will have this question: what kind of skills and knowledge will be required from a graduate or an individual, and when it comes to applying a job after the pandemic situation? Most of the working methods have changed. Earlier, people wanted, everyone thought it would be remote working. Some of the IT companies are going to follow that right throughout the end of the year, but most of the companies have adapted like a system that you mentioned. Most of the interviews are held online as well. Technical skill is driving the environment. How do you see this, Mr. Weerasinghe?
Yeah, I think for graduates, it's a great opportunity. Again, you don't have a previous way that you need to change from. You are going into a new way of working. It's new for us who have been there earlier, but the new graduates who are coming in, this is the way of working. This is what you're going to get used to. When I started, that was the time maybe Google was coming in and computers were just getting created. So used in office environment. And from there to this environment again, it's a new normal, and I feel it's a great opportunity for the newcomers to thrive in, because all these graduates have grown up with technology. They have seen smartphones since 2007, a good part of their life, and they have seen what technology can do in terms of from education to economy to everything else. And so this is the best time for them to come to employment and to thrive in that, using your knowledge on technology, because you are not going to be resisting technology. You are a lot more comfortable in technology than most of the colleagues that we have in traditional organizations. So you can really thrive. You can help your colleagues. You can be a buddy to help others to embrace this technology. And you can also help others to this thing. So you can be a reverse mentor, I would say. And there is a lot of value that you can bring to your colleagues through that way. And but one area that I think I will always caution is to make sure that you have enough physical engagement interactions with your colleagues and supervisor, because that physical engagement is also part of your development. You have so much of knowledge that you have acquired at the university and through other professional exams and programs, but when you come to employment only, you start applying that knowledge. So when you apply that knowledge, you will come across challenges. Calculating doing an investment appraisal is not just same as what you see in a book. It will be, say, if I take a simple example of putting up a base station, putting up a tower, that requires, we do an investment appraisal on putting up a tower. So that then we have to look at what is the revenue that you are going to get. And there are so many towers and you are going to put another tower. Say 3,000 towers are there, adding another one. How do you do an investment appraisal? Because you are not going to get separate set of customers only for that tower. It's a common set of customers, but there will be certain gaps that gets closed, and you have incremental revenue coming from that. So it is not really exactly as in the textbook, but you use a lot of assumptions and estimate the potential. So you apply and you gradually over a period of time, you improve your estimations, assumptions. So that application and then getting feedback from your supervisor, colleagues is really important, and you need to maintain that physical interaction, especially during early part of your career. Um, Once you are quite used to, or once you get used to working, then you can get into a little more offline model where you don't need to come to work. But initially, I would encourage, and we encourage our newcomers to spend more time meeting our colleagues and getting one-on-one interactions, because that is a very critical part, so that you know that you're on the correct track. Because unlike education, yeah, you are preparing for exam and you know set for the exam and you know whether you did right or wrong. Sometimes until the year end you might not know, and if you don't go and ask on a monthly or regular basis, you will not know how you are tracking. You think that you are doing a great job, but your colleagues or your peers will think that you are doing a lousy job. So it is very important to go and ask for that feedback, ask how am I doing, and how am I delivering, and maintaining that physical interaction. So this is a great strength that you are going to exploit when you go into new environment in this post-COVID era, and you all are the most suited, best equipped to thrive in that environment. But don't take it for granted that digital only will be successful. You have to maintain that physical interactions, and you need to bring the best of both worlds, and then you can become better managers, better leaders.
So the hot topic that I can relate to this is the employee layoffs and increasing unemployment, which is being currently going as a buzzword everywhere around the world. Current changes have made it very difficult for older employees to cooperate since they possess technical knowledge. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's a very tough one. I think there are always both two sides to this issue. Organizations are trying to sustain their business and stay above water. Sometimes the future is very uncertain for them. They don't know next month, next quarter, next year what is going to happen. So in that uncertainty, it is really hard for them to give visibility to everyone and to keep the business alive, because you might try to carry everyone and then go down with everyone, or you might have to take certain reductions so that as a lean, a smaller organization, you can sustain through the challenge and then bring them back later on. So that's but it is very, very subjective, because it is dependent on the sector that you are in, the industry that you are in. Fortunately, our industry, telecommunications industry, we saw a massive impact. We released our quarterly results beginning of August. We had close to about 3,000 million rupee revenue impact on our top line. And our business is such that unlike manufacturing, if there is no revenue, it doesn't mean that the cost will go away. We still, even though people are not using or not able to pay for the services, we have to still produce. The network is running. We have to pay for the tower rentals. We have to pay for the frequency fees to the government. We have to keep the electricity going on the base stations. So all that, say if we Dialog TV, we have to pay for the satellite content, even though we are giving it without any charge. So in our business, the cost won't go away just because revenue is not there or people are not able to use. So we have to really look at how do we bring down costs and then become more sustainable. So when this issue came up, as a team, what we did was we said we are not going to do any layoffs. As a principal, we said we call it API Dialog team. We said we are going to be together as one API Dialog family, and we will look after everyone. So we focused on 4 areas. One is on our customers, the first one. Second one is our community, colleagues, and our country. Those are the 4 C's we looked at looking after our customers, looking after our colleagues, looking after our community, and then country. So customers, we gave a lot of concessions, free talk time to many stuff on TV to broadband to keep them again going, not taking disrupting their connectivity because it was tough times. Employees, so we said we are not going to take our staff down. We will have everyone together. We will support, but we requested everyone to be mindful. I had very close, very regular communications with them. Normally, I have for the entire company, we have close to about 2,800 staff. We have twice at the beginning of the year, around the third quarter of the year, two town halls where I go to all the buildings and I talk to them. But this time I had like every month I talk to them. Now, our last town hall was after results on Thursday, where we spoke. Now this online platform is beautiful because on one event, through one Microsoft Live event, I can speak to everyone in the organization and everyone can join. So we maintain communication with everyone, updated them how the company is progressing, what are the challenges we have, what do they need to do, how can they bring down the cost down, and then how can they help the organization so that we don't need to get into the more difficult challenge of having to cut salary or having to cut benefits or having to lay off people. So they responded really well. So we have then since then recovered from that situation. Business customers also rewarded us really well. We gave a lot of stuff free in April, and then May, June, July, we have seen a good response from customers coming back and then consuming our services more than before. So all in all, we saw that it was important to stay with them and not let them go, but it was also equally important to update them, keep them informed why we are doing certain stuff. And make sure that they also acknowledge and appreciate the situation that we are in, not to take things for granted. It's really tough times, but we need to make sure that everyone acts responsibly. But what we went through is very different to any other organization because it is dependent on their industry.
Correct. And Mr. Weerasinghe, I think a lot of them, graduates especially, at times like this will watch how a company treats its employees, how the whole system works together, or because these graduates will be the ones who will be joining the firms someday to be a part of a great institution. Now, following the revise with the current practices to get ready for the future, the degree programs which are developed is with the previous situation or the normal situation that is taking place. Do you think changes should be made to these curriculums so that graduates can manage to these uncertainties, or do you feel like our graduates are ever ready to adapt and change to whatever the circumstances they face?
I think local graduates, we have a lot of good, smart people in the local education system. And the Dialog professional team, 90% plus are local graduates from, be it from Jayabardhanapura University, Moroto University, Colombo University, and all other universities. So if you look at Dialog as an organization, it's led by a local team. It's led by, managed, delivered by a local team of professionals who have mostly educated in Sri Lanka. So we have world-class talent, and our talent is doing extremely well, not only in Sri Lanka, but also in the group, in other countries. Not only they thrive in Sri Lanka, but they are also compete well, do well in other countries within the same group. And that's something that we take really good pride in. So what they need to do in terms of curriculum, I think you have to make sure that you are up to date on the newer skills. Newer skills being digital. First is digitization of the business. Digitization related stuff, be it robotic process automation, introducing stuff like chatbots into your processes, And then thereafter UI UX, user experience design, and understanding the user journeys, because you have to help the organization move from a traditional to a digital organization. But you all, the graduates, are very much aware what a new customer thinks, what a new generation customer want. So it is very much easier to map that, and then you might see that there is 20 steps in a process. You can bring it down to 5 steps, and you don't need to do all this because in digital everything is automated, or everything is real time. So understanding those stuff like UI UX, digitization, basic understanding on tools would be really useful. Then the other area, especially for management graduates, is on analytics. Analytics again is it's a really powerful area that our graduates can thrive in. I think if you look at statistics alone, Sri Lanka has the best statisticians in the world. And we have, even say accountants, we have the highest number or the best accountants in the world. Even Seema will confirm that, and that's something that we maybe have been developing over the years, and that is something that we can thrive in this new environment. So in management, everyone learns about statistics and everyone is good with numbers. So it is important to see how you can bring that knowledge about with numbers, statistics, analytics into analytics. So if I give a simple example, first, it's a journey that you have to digitize. If you look at our application, we serve about 70,000 retailers in the market, the reload shops. And those are the shops that customers walk in to buy a SIM card, or buy a television connection or a broadband connection. Of the 70,000 reload or recharge points, about 20,000 are selling SIM cards. And about 5,000 are selling TV and home broadband. So before digitization, each business, television business, broadband business, mobile business, also mobile has two, postpaid and prepaid, has had 4 different applications. So imagine if Kavisha walks into a outlet and says, I want to buy a SIM card, she's given a one application. Then if you, Sharon, walks in and says, I want to buy a TV, then you are given another application. So that was a paper world and a complex world. And then you have to fill that in. A retailer will activate, we don't get the details. And if something goes wrong, if police or government wants information about that, then we don't have it for like 45 days until say if it's in Madhavachya, the document has to come from all the way from Madhavachya to our office and get into scan systems. Until that time, we didn't have, and it was very painful. So what we did was we first simplified that journey as part of digitization. We simplified. We asked, why do you need 4 types of applications? Can we have one format? And then so before digitizing, before putting all these forms into a digital application, we said, let's simplify. And then we converted into one application, one format, so that the retailer doesn't need to look at different fields when he's filling it. Because we have, in this case, the user is the retailer. Then also we went, can we reduce the workload that he doesn't have to enter the number, ID number, the full name, all that. Because if you look at the new IDs, there's a barcode at the back. And we equip the retailer app, you can scan the barcode and the entire information can be extracted to that. Again, reducing the time that the retailer spends, as well as reducing the errors that can happen, going to type a singular name in English and then create issues, because finally, as a customer, you are not happy, and then retailer also gets into trouble. So we digitize that, but we also, since it's not fully linked, the ID is not fully linked with the national ID database, we have a backend team, real-time monitors what comes in, whether they take a picture of the ID or whether they take a picture of a monkey and put it into our database. We monitor that. And within 3 hours, we look at how many of these are correct documentation coming. The connection gets activated real time. And then if the documentation is not proper, we disconnect the line and we tell, please come and give a proper documentation to get the line active. Initially, when we did that, there were like 20% connections that we had to disconnect. And these numbers are very big. We for a month, we do about 500,000 new connections. So 20% is 100,000. But we had to, in order to discipline everyone, we had to do that. And then within like 3 months, it went down under 2%. Because it is about discipline, and we cannot have a situation where we don't have the right information if a crime gets committed, and then we don't have the right information of the person who used that connection. So that entire journey we had to simplify and then digitize and then make sure that we bring in analytics. So how do we bring analytics? In the paper-based process, you don't know what happens really until at the month end you will get some records saying that you got users. But in the digital process, we know now real time how many connections are getting activated. Say when the power outage happened, next day morning we have a sales operation center. I go and ask which markets, which areas got most affected. Can you tell me? And based on the new connections that are coming in, which markets had the interruption more? Because the retailers lost power, retailers couldn't activate connections. But we can then we look at improving the backup batteries and all that in those markets. So even the lockdown, when the markets were getting opened up, we had a lot of analytics to support saying that we need to prioritize these routes over the others. Because when you're serving 70,000, you have to be really sharp in where you target. So analytics, the digitization helps you to give that visibility now. So in a dashboard, you can see how things are moving, where which retail shops are open now, and which retailers are doing business, which are not active. Then we need to put our resources behind the ones who are doing well, as well as bring back the ones who are not really functioning well. And also then, on top of that, we can gamify that operation, give rewards to the retailer, saying that if you sell, now he's on 8 SIM cards, say that if you sell 2 more SIM cards today, you will get some more reward, because it's more real time. So that gamification, building leaderboards, all that comes into play. So all that is possible because we started with simplifying. You digitize and bring all the information into one digital platform, and thereafter bring analytics, basic dashboards, then more advanced AI ML to make sure that you improve the process and deliver better results. So in all this, our management graduates have the basic fundamental foundational knowledge. It's about application, and you can also sharpen these things through a lot of online courses. I think universities also will bring in this new knowledge, especially focus on data science going forward, but there are a lot of online courses. How do you do growth hacking to basics in data science? These things are available, but little bit more knowledge, so that when you see these things, you are very familiar with this, and you can bring your technical knowledge, your educational knowledge to the application much faster. I took some time, but I wanted to explain the
I
picture.
know. And that was a very good definition given, especially as to what the institution does. But there is also a question now. The government also has plans on data protection. This has gone into another level, especially in European countries. They're very strict when it comes to data protection. And here in Sri Lanka, one part of the community is very strong in that, and the other part is not too concerned, where it's an important area that we really need to focus on. How do you see this?
I think it's a very good question, and it's very, very, very important. I don't think anyone should take lightly the importance of data protection and privacy. So these are very, very important topics, and very critical to make sure that you don't compromise on either. There is no compromise. I think there is no halfway through. It's either black or white. You need to make sure that at every point you don't compromise on that. So there are, if say the relevant authorities, either the legal system or the certain authorities that are empowered under the Telecommunications Act and the Sri Lankan legal system can ask for data. For of a person certain, if there's a crime gets committed, then they can get. But otherwise, we don't share information. Even I will get someone to the highest level and ask, can you share? We say we cannot, and that is something that we uphold always. That is something that we always uphold, and something we make sure that, because 15 million customers rely on us, and they have that faith in us to do the right thing. So we cannot compromise, and we don't compromise. And we have gone through very tough times, even during the war and thereafter. But we need to make sure that we have the systems to support it. It's not just telling about privacy, but to have systems. So one simple example is that if one of our staff look at a customer profile, say if one of our staff looks at Sharon's customer profile, your profile, to understand where you live. So there are multiple layers. First is just to get your profile. CRM will give you the basic profile. Even that is logged. So if Sharon says that my information somebody has got, then we can trace back and see who has looked at your profile. And is there a valid reason? Maybe you had called the call center and then you had said you have problem. Then there's a valid reason, and then we can say, yes, you have called, and then in order to check. But if there's no reason, you have never called, but then we take the person to task, warnings, and even termination. And if you have to go and check somebody's detailed bill, then again there's another password that you have to enter. Again, a lot of access privileges. Again, all that is logged, so that we have a clear trail if some information has been taken out. And in every system, every platform that we create, we put a lot of emphasis on data protection and privacy. So we have separate data protection officer in the organization who reports to me. We have a steering committee every month on data protection aspects to understand where our vulnerabilities are. We also get red teams. We get teams from our parent company to come and penetrate our systems and see whether they can hack into our systems and extract data. So that we are always on our toes to make sure that we don't compromise. But it's one of the biggest challenges, because we are all also moving rapidly to digital. We are moving to, say, self-care app is a good example. We now, in the self-care app, you have everything. So if you keep the phone without locking and then somebody taking your phone, then earlier could see even your bills. But again, we brought in more data protection. We brought in biometric authentication onto the My Dialog app, because we recognize that maybe you kept the phone idle and you also don't put a lock on the phone, and somebody can access more details about you through if you had My Dialog app. So again, as a further control to uh, bring in the biometric, we always look at have two-factor authentication. Not only a password, either a PIN or some other means to verify if you are the same person. So it's something that we take very serious note of, and a lot of actions around it. But it's a challenge that we are every day trying to improve. I think, say, the elections happened, and people were getting SMSs. They were blaming operators, saying, "Are you sharing your customer bases?" That's the first question you will ask. And there are people who call me and ask, "Can you give the database?" I said, "No, for sure, no." And then that's something even regulator has been always saying, "No, you are not going to get customer information." Regulator also is very firm. But I think consumers also give their number in so many other interactions. You go to a
Exactly.
supermarket, you will give your number. You go to a fast food outlet, you will give your number. And there's a lot of ways this, we don't know whether they have that discipline of data protection in all these organizations. But it gets, the finger gets pointed at the operator, because saying that operator gave the information. So to prevent that, we also brought in the control around the stop ad. If you have not consented, then you can stop it. And again, we take the advertiser to task for sending stuff from, because we get a declaration from the advertiser that customer has consented. And if they have not consented, again, we penalize them for sending spam messages. But it's a ever evolving challenge, and it's something that become even bigger in the digital world, along with cybersecurity. And this is something that we have to continuously work on. Management graduates again have a big role to play, understanding the big picture, also looking at where the vulnerabilities are and how you can breach them, how you can close them, either through process improvements or through system improvements.
Mr. Weerasinghe, do you think the current changes brought up by the pandemic situation will help benefit in the long term? A lot of them took a break. I understand that some of us went non-stop working, but there was also a recess, a restructure, a realignment of how do we steer things and go forward, especially in developing countries, to stimulate the tendency of change and adapting systems. Was there a change like that?
Yeah, we see now a lot of our digitization journey started in 2017, and we really accelerated that. We created a team of around 300 full-time staff only working on digitization. So there is one team close to about 30 staff who are only working on My Dialog app, and there is another team working on the retail side. So we moved to that, recognizing anyway the business challenge. But what we see is now most of the other organizations also have recognized the challenge to digitize, to be relevant to the customer, and then they are moving much faster. If this journey would have taken 5 years before, now it will happen maximum in a year or year and a half. So the speed at which they are changing is have accelerated because people are recognizing that this is really now real. There is no way out of it, and it is not going to happen 10 years later. It is now on our face. We need to change. And then the technologies are also working. These platforms, for example, is working. It's quite convenient. It's affordable. There's a lot more cheap data plans that have been created, and a lot of tools that have been created for online collaboration to all the other stuff. So we need to make sure that we use this again, I'm saying, as opportunity. And I'm seeing from small businesses to large enterprises moving into digital is happening at a much faster pace.
Will these situations affect students with low income and less infrastructure facilities, to lead to more disparity in learning?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yes, we have cautioned. I think we always, in our engagements with the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, we bring up this point. And even giving access to free data was one of the initiatives to bridge that deficit. But certainly, I think uh, what we are seeing, not only in Sri Lanka, globally, is that the disparity is increasing between the rich and the poor. I think the US is a classic example, but in all markets, be it access to education, be it access to healthcare, be it access to employment, because the white collar worker can easily work from home. But if you are a blue collar, if you are a day labor job in countries like India or Bangladesh, you're out of job. There's no thing of working from home for them. The factories are closed, they're out of job, their incomes are lost. So this pandemic is increasing that disparity. But I think as leaders, we have a big responsibility in doing everything possible to bridge that and minimize that impact. So when it comes to education, what we are seeing is access to connectivity is one challenge. One is affordability challenge. To improve that, we have given a lot of concessionary data plans, even to the extent of unlimited. So our cost of production of a GB is about 50 to 60 rupees. But on say our Zoom unlimited plan or Zoom 25 GB plan, we are giving like 25 GBs for 150 rupees. So that's about 6 rupees. So it's at 1/10 of the price we are giving, because we recognize the need to give access to these platforms at a much cheaper rate. However, that is not enough. Then we have the affordability challenge you can bridge partly. You also give free access through like the UGC Learn initiative. Um, but then you have connectivity, whether the connectivity is available. If a student is in a remote area, you might not have 4G coverage. So that is again something that as an industry we are taking on seriously. As a telco, we are largest operator, we are taking on seriously and looking at how to fast track some of those remote infrastructure developments so that we improve the coverage. Uh, the regulator again is doing an initiative identifying special remote gaps where coverage is not present, and then working with operators to fast track, because putting a tower again is not something that I can do overnight. There are about 7 to 10 approvals that we have to take, from the local government to environment to civil aviation to regulator to health. It takes a good 1 year to get a site approved and deployed. A good 1 year. And again, there are restrictions. There are height restrictions. There's close vicinity. I cannot have sites if there's another site. So within all these restrictions only we work, and regulator is also now gradually recognizing the challenges and giving more flexibility and prioritizing the rural coverage. So that is the second challenge. Affordability is the first challenge. Second is availability. Third challenge is also partly, I would say, accessibility, because everyone doesn't have a device to log on to the internet and continue. Everyone doesn't have a laptop. I think there was a survey done by on the Colombo University undergraduates. Again, a significant number of students don't have laptops, and similar in other universities. So again, the representations that I have made to include also to look at if the government can look at facilitating a easy payment scheme or installment scheme to arrange laptops for these children, so that they can continue their education. So there needs to be interventions that we need to do to bridge the deficit and make sure that everyone can stay online and continue this journey and not to get left out. We need to make it inclusive, not exclusive. And I think government is also doing a lot in that space, bringing accessibility on low cost connectivity as well as coverage and devices. But this is one big challenge we have.
Mr. Weerasinghe, now we also want to touch on a very important topic of mental health. This scenario with COVID-19 brought in a lot of talk saying I'm working more hours now on a desktop. It's stressful. Sometimes meetings extend. I've been pushed for unlimited numbers. It's not only I'm not saying it's from Dialog. I'm saying overall globally, it's a complete push that has come, and then the levels of stress in people has drastically increased. Could be because they're stuck at home, could be also because their whole work environment changed. Have you had a break? How do you adjust yourself or balance yourself to the lifestyle of this new COVID? And how would you advise a young graduate also to adapt their stress levels in studying or being in front of a computer and working their way?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I think during the initial lockdown period, for first 4 to 6 weeks, it was non-stop, even weekends. Very challenging to look at how to keep customers connected, what concessions to give, how to change the network, introduce new products, and then there is no Saturday, Sunday. You continuously work. So used to even start around 8 and then go on till 1, 2 in the morning. And then that was not like 1 week, 2 week. It was like 4 to 6 weeks that was going on. And then we also realized that it is too much. We need to take the breaks and then get to a more realistic schedule. So we now I don't really so to say I don't really work on weekends uh, much. So but try and do like 2 hours 3 hours maximum during each Saturday Sunday, so that I don't accumulate anything to Monday. And if any reading to be done, I use that time to do that reading, maybe white papers and stuff. And then on a weekday again, I normally start around 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then go on till around 7:30. Then I take a break till around for 3 hours, 10:30, have dinner, spend some time with my family. Then again, I do about 2 hours, so that clear everything, because daytime it's more meetings, and the last 2 hours I have some time to clear any pending stuff. So, and then make sure I get also 7 hours of sleep. That's also really important, because one thing that I would really tell our graduates, everyone here, is to have a good sleep, minimum 7 hours, and you cannot substitute that with anything else. You cannot substitute that with anything else. It is important to your health. It really helps to recover and get you back on track. And you cannot just think that I will sleep 3 hours and 4 hours and make the 7 hours. It doesn't work like that, because you need at least a good 4 hours of deep sleep. And that deep sleep, you cannot just say that I am now going to deep sleep and give me deep sleep. It doesn't work. So you that 6 to 7 hours, maybe at my age I need 7 hours, but maybe at your everyone minimum, I would say 6 hours of good sleep is important, because that will keep you healthy, and that will keep you away from all the illnesses and also keep you mentally active. So something that people take for granted is sleep. I try not to do that. And the other thing is do regular exercises, meaning try and go for a walk, at least half an hour to 45 minutes. So that again, it burns the toxic, and you breathe some fresh air. And then that is again important. Though especially stuck in a room, you get again claustrophobic, and you don't really open up. Your mind starts closing down. So that's how I do. And then always I think the other piece is try and watch the diet, in terms of not to like take unnecessary food or eat between breaks and all that. But I would say the most important thing is sleep, a good 7 hours sleep, and then um, have a routine at least 3 days, 4 days a week, some regular workout. Those two really help. And spending time with family, friends, again, really important to, especially for that mental stress. Because if you're only exposed to this online world, and you will get fatigue, and you'll really be very frustrating. So you need to break away. You need to spend some time with family, friends, crack a joke. I spend time with my kids, and then it's important.
Mr. Weerasinghe, now for graduates, it's more online lectures. And I know some of them who are listening right now probably will be putting a smile on their face when I say they probably switch off their cameras because they can listen to the lecture, but then their mind would be on other things as well. What kind of advice can you give them? Because this is like a crucial opportunity because they have more time to study, but then online study has also, it's too much just to sit in front for a very long time.
Yeah, I think again I would encourage a more hybrid model. Now I think most of the difficult time is behind us, I would say. So everyone who have survived through this and being in this one also shows that they are more comfortable. But again, you shouldn't overdo this. It should be, you spend some time online. Maybe it's easier. It cuts down a lot of time that you spend on travel. But you need to engage with your friends, discuss the work or discuss about the lesson, discuss about a case, and in person. Because even sometimes meetings, we say, no, we can't do this meeting online, we have to meet in person, because we have to do a whiteboard discussion, and it's not something you can just discuss over online. So I would encourage a more 50-50 kind of a model, not to do complete online, because it's not effective.
Can the firm offer part-time jobs to undergraduate students using the current situation so that they could earn and learn at the same time, or else do they have to stick to the same system that was before the pandemic?
Yeah, the part-time model is only available in a customer support functions. In the rest of the organization, it's a full-time role, because you have a full-time responsibility. But there are projects that you can get involved in. But those are more like internships. So we have a lot of undergrads from the statistics department who do amazing stuff with us in especially in digitization analytics, and those are internships where, because I'm not very sure in a 4-hour 6-hour part-time job whether you have enough time to complete, because we also focus on delivering things faster. Um, and then something that we did was bringing that sense of urgency. Because when you are at home and when you have so much time to yourself, while most of them are working really hard, you can also feel relaxed. I have enough time. I can not do this today. I can postpone it. And that is also not good. So we brought in sense of urgency to make sure that, say, my Dialog app, for example, we look at every 2 week sprints. So we work on something called sprints, and then every 2 week we have to have a tangible, measurable outcome. So in order to achieve that kind of a model, the part-time is not really effective, but project-based is possible. It's kind of 6 months projects. Part-time is only can be done mostly on the front line, where you have a defined volume of work. You do that and you go away. In rest of the organization functions, it doesn't go away. You have to continuously work on it.
We like to open the floor for questions from all our viewers. You can drop in your questions in the chat box section. Anything that you want to ask from Mr. Weerasinghe, this is a fantastic opportunity for you, and he has spared his valuable Saturday time with you to share some great insights, especially from his career and life as well. Mr. Weerasinghe, I want to ask about innovation. This topic was very hot during COVID lockdown, and then there were a lot of new innovative ideas that came down from the government sector, health sector. I mean, together, that's why we're strong as a nation to move forward, even with the lockdown that is in process, and probably one of the few countries to be so strong. How do we motivate people with this innovation, that this is important for us to move forward?
Yeah, so in innovation also, we look at incremental innovation and disruptive innovation. So, but any form of innovation is important, and we should encourage. So first, it's recognizing that innovation, giving a platform for them to do more of that, create the concept, bring it to life, then apply it and see whether it's working, then supporting to scale. In most situations, we see that you make it working, but scaling is a challenge. You can make, say, 100 units, but if you have to make 100,000 units, you are not able to do it. Either there is market acceptance issue or the pricing issue. But it's a journey that we have to take through, and if you don't encourage, and if you do much as possible, say if you say that I am only doing 3 innovations for a year, you don't know which 3 are going to be successful. So you have to encourage 100, and you might see 3 working. And then you have to, the senior leaders have to spend time. So every 2 weeks, we sit with the innovation teams, and they aggregate various ideas, and showcase, and we support them. We give funding for them to take them to the next stage. The other area of innovation is crowdsource innovation, extending platforms so that others can innovate on our platforms, because there's so much that you can do on your own as innovation, but there's a lot of youth who have good ideas, but they don't have access to our networks or our platforms. So giving that extension has really fueled innovation for us. We have over 10,000 young innovators, and they make good money. I think our payouts on the Idea Mart platform, for example, is more than $1 million every month. So it's about 200 million every month that go as payments, because they have created stuff and they are selling and making money. And the majority goes to the developer community, the Idea Mart developer, and then we take a minority. So it's important to encourage, facilitate. And I think the other piece is that you shouldn't be discouraged that one idea didn't work. It's about continuously improvising and pivoting. If something doesn't work, then you change your game and look at what is the problem that you're solving. But always you have to start with the problem that you're going to solve. Just because you have a good idea, it wouldn't help. You have to really see, is there a problem and is it something significant enough for you to solve? And that is one big reason why innovations fail. There's one question coming in. Maybe.
Yeah, it's on companies like Twitter have made some of their employees to work from home permanently. What is your take on this? Will Sri Lankan companies also adopt to these practices in the future?
Uh, yeah, it's so we also did surveys about from with our staff, asking them, do you want to do work from home full time, permanent? And we asked them, do you have the right environment to do work from home? So the surveys showed that about 60% are happy, and 40% are not happy to do work from home. So for the reasons that I mentioned, they lose social touch, they lose the connectivity with their supervisor, they don't have the right environment at home. And some don't want to do all 5 days from home. They are okay to work from home 2-3 days, but not all 5 days. So I think we are not ready, or we don't have maybe in our organization. Again, this is different to say IT company. In our setup, we don't see that we can do 100% work from home for all employees. It will be a mix always, because given the different cross section of people that we have, as well as the services that we offer.
Thank you, Mr. Weerasinghe, and thank you, Rakesh, for giving us that question. I guess it's depending on the industry, depending on the workforce, especially if it's a bank. Again, you cannot stop. There's a lot of back office work that goes in, and there'll be people to scold also if the bank is closed. Mr. Weerasinghe, what are your ideas in the upcoming developments? We're all moving fast and forward, and everybody wants, okay, what's new, what's going to happen next? The mobile device is like the life now. We never thought about it 20 years ago that this device would be the one thing that we wake up to, the first thing that we look at when we wake up. It's a different thing. Is that how it's going to be, or do you think there'll be a device in our body that we'll have to just wipe up and wake up?
No, I don't think it will be that. I wouldn't go that far, but I think what we are now recognizing is that connectivity is a basic fundamental need for every human being. You can stay again one day without electricity, but you will not stay one day without connectivity. So because you are so connected, and all the businesses and everyone is connected to each other, so this connectivity will become even more prevalent. If you look at today, still in Sri Lanka, less than 40% or around 40% of our population is connected to the internet. So there's 60% who are not connected to the internet. Everyone may be having 70-80% have a telephone, but internet access is with only about less than the majority. So there's some work to be done there. But in terms of technology evolution, what we see is that 5G is getting more traction now, 5G as a technology. And it is also coming at a time where the need for better connectivity is ever increasing with in a post-COVID scenario. So what 5G delivers is a better, faster bandwidth for more richer experiences, engagements. You can run multiple applications on your connection. It also cuts down latency. The latency is very important for stuff like gaming or more real-time work. Again, it cuts down latency. So we are seeing 5G coming into life faster than earlier expected. And we are now trialing. We have done about 10 plus sites in Colombo City to get customers who have 5G devices to latch on to the network. But we will look at getting that expanded in the coming months. Again, that is where we see helping even the industries. Industries say if somebody is doing a barcode reading in a factory production line and then checking the ones which are defective, that entire thing, that production line can get automated using 5G because the latency is also very minimal and it can pick any defect in the production line. And then there are so many other use cases of 5G for industry automation, and then that again helps so that we can upskill the resources, upskill people, and let go of the mundane work to the machines, and then bring the brains to do more productive stuff. That's what we would see within the next 5 years. And there were a lot of also concerns that whether 5G is creating COVID and 5G is bringing all health hazards, and there's nothing of that sort. And there's so much of proven studies that 5G doesn't have any impact on health, because a lot of health trials tests happen before bringing in this kind of a technology. And then we believe that it has a lot of potential to fast track acceleration into digitization for countries like ours, where we are dependent on wireless to digitization.
There is a question by Gavin. Will there be a reduction in employability of fresh graduates to companies from 2021 onwards due to job cuts of COVID-19? I know we discussed a part of it, but Mr. Weerasinghe, if you can just elaborate a little more.
Yeah, I think if you look at the job market overall, it's slowing down. I think that is a fact. Organizations have slowed down hiring, and then because they are going through a difficult time. But we expect 2021 to be much better, and then businesses to be back to normal in terms of hiring and business volumes. However, I would still say that businesses will be looking at hiring the skills that they don't have. And the graduates have those skills, but you need to sharpen a bit more. Stuff like digitization, UI, UX, analytics, all that pieces are really useful for businesses, because you are going into a era where companies are realizing that we need to change. They acknowledge there's a problem, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't have enough people to change the organization. So here there is a problem in terms of employer, and the graduates who have the skills, who have the knowledge, can nicely go in, because you are helping to solve that problem. It is not that traditional graduate that will be more attractive to a organization anymore. They will be looking for new skills, and from now at least you should look at how do you acquire that skills, learn about these things. So at an interview, if you are being asked what is growth hacking, it shouldn't sound alien to you. What is UI UX, and what do you know about doing these customer journeys? You should be aware. So that is where you can bring value and bring more relevance to the employer, and employer will love to hear that kind of stuff. And that is a skill that employer doesn't have.
We have another question. Gimhani has asked us, is the workload of the lower level management and the non-managerial employees quite similar to the workload of the top management, or is the stress of the workload mainly focused on lower levels while working from home? What are the measurements taken to encourage higher productivity with less distractions? And is there space for employees to develop in other extra skills while working from home? Gimhani, I think the life of a CEO is also very, very stressful, handling different engagement of the entire country. And especially asking for Mr. Weerasinghe, would you answer that?
Yeah, I think everyone has their share of challenges and pressures. So I would say the lower level staff have more workload pressure. The higher you go, you have pressure coming from uncertainty. So the pressure that I have is about uncertainty. Will there be a second wave? How do we grow our business? And then related to that kind of challenges, less so of workload is there, but that is more the stuff that keeps me awake. But the as you go down, it's a workload pressure, and then you need to look at how do you balance your day and how do you prioritize your work and align with your supervisor and be productive. So it's varying degrees, but it's something that everyone has, and it's something that you have to. It's part of life. I think if you I don't think you should see that as a problem per se, but you have to know how to deal with it. I think you all used to exam pressure, exam stress, but you all thrive in that, and some people love it. So it's how you look at it, and don't look at it as a problem, but it's you are taking a challenge. It's an opportunity to do something better and for you to grow. If you keep that growth mindset, this is something you're learning, something new always, then it's really a positive attitude that you put into stress than a negative attitude. Then you bring in positive energy rather than negative energy. Because if you see stress as bad, then you put in a lot of negative energy, then it will bring you down. But if you see stress as positive, I'm learning, I'm developing, I'm growing, I can handle larger workloads now, then you bring in positive energy. Then you dissect the problem. How can I now handle this workload? How can I prioritize? So it's effectively an attitude to that challenge. In terms of higher productivity and less distractions, again, I think giving those breaks, encouraging them to spend time with their family. We also have created some, like we call it clubs. There is a art club. There is a, I think, different hobbies. Around different hobbies, we have created groups, and then they spend their time even through this thing. They even for aerobics, there's one. There's different communities that are there, and we encourage that, so that they will sometimes they meet up and then have casual chats evening. They meet up for drinks and do a casual chat and then just chill out. That was more the COVID time, lockdown. It was very intense. But I think those are the stuff that we encourage. We always say that it shouldn't be complete work.
I think we have another question, which would brings us to the time as well. This is about Dialog itself in when it comes to maintaining its brand name at the top customers' hearts amidst heavy competition, challenges, and negatives. And also, Mr. Weerasinghe, what do we have in store for the next couple of months from Dialog?
Yeah, so I think brand is very closer to our hearts. It's something that we do everything to make sure. But brand is something that we live in our every action. So from extending our network to making our services available, how we handle our customers and how we serve them. Everything is about the brand, how we serve the country. So brand is a living thing that everyone passionately works towards, not only our staff, but also our partners and the larger ecosystem. So we very closely monitor. We have a lot of measurements around the health One is health of the brand, but also health of the other parameters, network health, customer health, customer satisfaction, and these are also near real time. So every transaction you will get a say NPS, Net Promoter Score survey, and every day morning I get a dashboard on what is the touch point NPS of DTV sales field support team who visited homes the previous day. What is the touch point NPS of customers who came to outlets and by outlet? What does the touch point NPS in Kurunegala, Gaul, Kandy, Jaffna? That is one dimension. Technical. So we have a lot of measures so that if there's any significant deviations, we can do interventions. And then the other part is around investments on the brand itself, uh, stuff around doing good. I think during COVID we did on especially on health and education, building ICU infrastructure to giving access to education, and then the priorities around that, helping children. So there's multiple tracks. The sustainability track really drives the doing good stuff. Then everyone in the organization, we call it service from the heart, and then that's part of our service ethos, service key value. One of the fundamental values in our organization is service from the heart, and make sure that we deliver everyone service and treat everyone with the care, respect, empathy. And then that's again a significant part of our brand. And then making sure the product remains relevant. And we do everything possible to deliver a world-class customer experience to everyone. Not only the person who spends 100,000 rupees, but also equally to the person who spends 10 rupees. So that wider spectrum is what we do, and then managing the media, um, uh, online digital media investments, and ATL media, BTL media, all that comes together in the brand manifestation. Then lastly, we have a lot of investments on sports. We sponsor the national cricket team, national rugby team, football, volleyball, netball, all that we do, again helping the brand as well as helping the country, because we believe sports has a very big part in developing a country, developing its people. So we encourage this development of sports and helping youth development. And these are not like we just do 1 year and 2 years and come back. For volleyball, for example, we had done like 17 years. Now cricket, we are 8+ years. Netball is now like about 3 years. Football, again, 20+ years. So we want to make that impact a lasting impact in supporting sports and development. So all that is what we see. There is negative stuff, and then I think what we see is that what we always look at is customer feedback is genuinely what customers are saying, because they are also passionate about the brand. They always want us to do the right thing. They always want us to improve, and that is how we look at customer feedback. Even if it's a negative post, we look at it because really care for Dialog. They want Dialog to do better, and the way they tell it sometimes it's not like the way I like to see it, but it is because of passion, because you're angry and you want Dialog to do better. I'm telling this, you need to get this thing sorted, and that's how we take that feedback, and we tell, we have 15 million customers who are very passionate about our brand. They want always to do better, and let's take it in that spirit and how we can help improve ourselves. So that in a nutshell, the larger picture of the brand.
Um, Mr. Weerasinghe, while we value your time today with us on FNF Media, we also want to ask you one final question. You have had an illustrious career with the education, balance of life, the sports involvement in different spheres of extracurricular activities. There are a lot of questions related to soft skills, recruitment, etc. How would you advise a new graduate that this is the message for you, this is what you should do?
Yeah, I think predominantly, very significantly important part is soft skills. it is really, really, really important because everyone has the knowledge, everyone is technically sound. So soft skills is very important. First is attitude. I just explained how you look at stress. You bring a positive attitude or a negative attitude. You do a can-do attitude or can't-do attitude. You come with a solution attitude or a excuse attitude. So I think there's plenty of opportunities. When I fourth year in university at Jadanapura to Dialog. I never expected 20 years later to be a CEO, but it was just working, taking on every challenge, giving the best at it, and learning and growing. And everything else falls into place. And you become a better individual, better manager, better leader. So that attitude is very, very important. But if we take it for granted, I think that is something that we shouldn't do. The second thing is communication, articulation. I think amongst local graduates, what we see is that they are not great in communicating and not great in articulating. You have a great idea, but you can't articulate it well. Then it remains a great idea to you, but everyone else doesn't know. So we have to get our graduates to improve that skill. But in order to do that, you need to communicate more. You need to talk and you need to practice yourself and be good at it, because at a meeting or if you have to sell your concept to a group of managers, then you need to also prepare yourself. How would you, just like you are preparing for university presentation, how am I going to put it in the language that they know, in the language not you know, in the language they know, and how am I going to solve their problem, not my problem, their problem. Then you are more relevant, they will start listening to you. So articulation is it's a second area that I see is really important, and if we sharpen that, our graduates can go much far. They can do even better, go further on communication and articulation. It's not that lack of knowledge of English, but it is articulating and coming out without fear,
Bring out their,
because
to speak it out. Yeah.
speak it
Communicate.
out. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, I always encourage people to talk at meetings without just listening, because if you don't talk, then others can't respond, and you can't also improve your thinking process, because you go into kind of a hibernation mode, and you become passive. So that is the other part, very important. And then the third later that will come in is more influencing collaboration, as a team, how you work together, how you influence outcomes. But the first two top priority ones are attitude and then communication, articulation.
Thank you to all who sent in your questions. Thank you for your very valuable time, and to the Group CEO of Dialog, Mr. Supun Weerasinghe. 2,800 staff, 50 million customers. That's a big number and a big task to take care of. We want to wish you all the very best on behalf of RIFNF Media in University of Colombo for joining us today in a fantastic discussion and giving us some great valuable insights, especially on how Dialog operates in a functional aspect, and helping us through with our topic for today for COVID-19 versus corporates, how we're going to go forward. To our graduates, I know that you've learned some very valuable insights from Mr. Weerasinghe today, and we hope that you can definitely get in touch with the human resources to find out more on how you can be a fantastic graduate. Thank you very much, Mr. Weerasinghe. We certainly hope you'll have a great Saturday. I think we have a fantastic concert tomorrow, powered by Dialog being the main sponsor, so we are all looking forward to that. Until we see you next time at another forum, sir, we wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks everyone for having me. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.